just always desire to just like try something better. Can you go bigger? Can you see a new form? You're like, can I make that? And you know, just the whole process of clay, it's such a long process that, you know, it takes quite some time to get from the beginning lump of clay to the end. You've got to make it, you've got to trim it, you've got to bisque fire it, then you've got to glaze it, then you've got to fire it again. So there's so many processes along the way that you sort of get a little bit of input in, but you're sort of like, you know, wondering, will it all go how you want it to? Yeah. So, you know, you're putting a bit of yourself into a piece of pottery, you know, that goes out there. So you have to have control of the clay. So you have an idea in mind. Sometimes, you know, it evolves, and that process is great, that you just see something happening and you go with it. You sort of, you know, you get lost in the creative field of just going with it, especially when it comes to firing. So you've put a glaze on it, and glazing is never an exact science. So when you put the glaze on, you can't see what it will look like. It looks like a dusty, powdery covering. It could look white, and then you get it out of the kiln, it's actually a green glaze. You know, you would know it was green, but you can't tell what it will look like when you put it in. It's very much like a nervous Christmas day, lifting that kiln lid and seeing what's happened, and hopefully nothing's cracked, and hopefully you've got some nice blends of colours mixing the way you wanted it to. Yeah, it's an exciting process.
How I came about falling in love with ceramics was I'd always painted and drawn my whole life, and my auntie had a pottery studio, so I loved playing with the clay and going to visit her house and making little miniatures for my Smurf collection. That was my big thing. I was like make all sorts of furniture and things, and that's how I first got into it. I was about 5 years old, and I started making all sorts of things. And then I left it, and I still wanted to do my art, so I ended up doing a fine arts degree, thinking I'd major in painting. But I had a go at ceramics, and it just hooked me. I loved the chemistry, I loved the colours and the glaze technology, and that, you know, you could be a kind of like a witch and kind of create all these amazing different colours through just trial and error and playing with all the oxides and the elements that you'd find in nature, adding heat to it, and boom, you have these explosions of color. So yeah, I just found it elemental, and I liked the fact that you also lost control. At certain points you put it in the kiln and you leave it up to the kiln gods, and you hope that your vision is going to align with what's going to come out of the kiln. It often doesn't. Just when you think you've nailed something, and you'll push the boundaries and try and fire it too quickly, and it'll blow up on you, or the glaze will run off and melt on the shelf, and people say, oh, why do you do it? It's so frustrating. And I go, I know, but when you get something beautiful and it really works, that's when it becomes just, it's kind of spiritual in a way. For me, creating is a way of finding mindfulness, and I think with clay and the tactile nature of it, and the fact that you can move it and amend it and bash it and recreate it. It's such a tactile and moldable and malleable substance to work with. I can work in the middle of the night, and I can start working at 8 o'clock, and I look at my watch and it'll be 3 in the morning, and I go, crikey, I better go to sleep.
I studied painting in undergrad, and I learned glassblowing when I was there. So glassblowing, well, it's just so interesting. You never can. You sort of get addicted to it. You never can stop. The difference between painting and glassblowing is the immediacy, and it's just so physically demanding. There's so many things you're doing at the same time. There's heat. You're just kind of constantly being inundated by things, and you're trying to work through it. Painting's quite relaxed, and you can come back to it. Glassblowing all has to happen immediately. It's really short and fast. It's exciting.
The physicality of making, blowing, just working with hot glass that's the thing that's kept me intrigued and interested for nearly 30 years. It's just working with the hot material. It's kind of the ultimate, really. A lot of what we do is quite classic, hopefully timeless designs. And we've drawn inspiration from kind of mid-century design. We draw on what's happened in glass history in terms of decorative techniques and design trends, nature from, surrounding environment, and that's pretty much it.